we're live, and I've pre-updated my show document, my
Mm.
intro document. So that's good. Yes, everybody's under the right name. All right, we'll get started here. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday, April 9th, 2021. Today we're talking about Tim Cook's latest interview, Apple's big updates to the Find My app, and of course, some big rumors because this is the iMore show. Joining me as always is iMore contributor Karen Freeman. Hey, Karen.
Hello.
And joining us today as our special guest is iMore writer Luke Filipovich. Hey, Luke.
Hey there. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, always great to have you on. We've got some interesting news this week between actual news and rumors. So let's just start diving in with Tim Cook. Tim Cook and his big interview and the next decade of fun at Apple. That's how I've been talking about this. So Tim Cook gave an interview to Kara Swisher, apologies, on the Sway podcast this week. And among many, many other things, Cook discussed where he'll be in the next 10 years. Kara asked him, Tim, are you going to, where do you see your next 10 years in Apple? And he indicated he's not going to be there he's probably not going to be there in 10 years, which not surprising, but yeah.
I mean, he is like 60 years old, right? I mean,
yeah, I think
he has enough money probably.
Yeah, I think he probably had enough money a while ago, but when is enough really enough?
Yeah.
I mean, what else? Maybe I'm naive because I'm not a CEO of a $1 trillion company, but what else can Tim Cook even do at this point? He's brought Apple soaring to profits, that are not even seen in other companies. It's pretty incredible what he's done as his tenure as CEO. So yeah, take a break, go buy an island somewhere and be one of those billionaires we complain about more than we complain about now.
Probably, I would imagine that Tim Cook takes the time to go to more Alabama football games.
Maybe
team of choice.
I can't remember, but he definitely has You're right. He definitely has a team. Maybe he'll become the main sponsor. Maybe he'll be that one of those secret funders you never hear about, and then the football team will become really good.
Yeah. So yeah, that was one thing that came out of the interview. The other thing that seems to have really set people their imaginations alight is the pretty explicit talk about AR. Tim Cook is not really one to talk about future products because he's Apple's CEO. But lately, this interview, more recent interviews, he's really been talking up AR. And I think we're getting to the point where a product is close. Maybe not this year close, but very closer than, say, the car. Much closer. So, yeah, one of the things he brought up is that it would be great if he could, this is great for you, Tim. Charts. He would like to show AR charts during video calls. That's good. I think some developers would say, but games though, you put a lot of emphasis on games with ARKit, less so on charts. And yeah, are we starting to feel like maybe an AR product is closer than ever? I'm going to go ahead and say.
I mean, we seem to be heading that direction.
Yeah. What I wonder is the rollout. I don't think this is something we'll necessarily see at WWDC. I think we're getting close to the time when developers maybe need to start working on stuff for it, explicitly for that sort of platform. So I've been thinking about this all week. I bet you we see an Apple Watch reveal for this where they reveal it and then 6 months later we get a headset.
That might be because to give developers time to really come up with some great things. I mean, that's what it was with the watch, right? I mean, the Apple Watch if it doesn't have any apps that work, it's not quite as amazing. So they gave developers a lot of time to make apps because it's a lot different. It's not like scaling up an iPhone app to an iPad. It's something new and completely different. So developers need time.
Yeah, totally. Like this, there's no easy. It's going to be a completely new software, right? Like there's no easy. Like you can't just make iOS run on glasses just like that. At least I don't think so.
I'm sure not.
So they would definitely need to have. There definitely need to be some lag time, for sure, in between an announcement, and then they'd have to get developer kits out and have a good stock of development tools ready to go when they do launch it, so people actually want to buy it. But I agree. I think we're definitely heading that way. We know Apple, like there's too much smoke for there not to be fire. We know Apple's working on this. We know Apple is definitely wanting to target this market. So it's just going to be interesting to see, exactly how they do it and when it comes out and how much my bank account's going to cry and things like that.
I keep thinking about it, and I really believe that Apple wants maybe even needs an in-person event for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a product that like shines in person. It's not kind of like releasing an iPhone, which you can go over all the specs, you can talk about all the stuff, and you can show it, and people are going to understand what it is and how it works and what it does. This is definitely, AR is something you need to like experience to really kind of grasp, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know if anyone's even just tried different AR apps that are out there now that are just, various, games or whatever. Like, it's something you really need to like experience to kind of like wrap your head around.
I'm of two minds about it. One is I don't know how well it'll play on stage, like in a live event on a jumbotron, which is how most people are seeing it, or on those of us at home, like how that's going to play out looking at it on a stage like that. But when the people who are physically there actually go to the hands-on room after the keynote, like that's going to be important.
Yeah, it's kind of like a combination of the Apple Watch and the first Apple Watch unveiling and the HomePod. Almost.
Yeah, you need to get your hands on it. But if you can't get your hands on it, I think it's better to have a virtual event where it's all like slickly produced than to have something on stage where we're just kind of like seeing it from a distance.
Imagine.
Yeah, like do you remember when they kind of like launched AR Kit and they had those two developers? I can't remember the name of the game now. I apologize. But there was a game that they were showing off. It was like a battle game, and they had the table and stuff, and it didn't really translate very well. Like I know they like on the screen they had what was going on the actual screen of your device, but like you don't understand how that feels or how that looks until you're actually doing it.
Right.
So I agree with you, Karen. I feel like if they can't do an in-person event when they want to launch it, then like a slick production is probably the best way to go. Like just having someone on stage kind of like walking around and doing things. It doesn't really translate. It seems a little odd, although it's usually pretty good for memes. So maybe that's something to think about. But
we're gonna get Stephen Warwick on making those memes, making the AR memes.
But yeah, like I agree with you, Joe. Like it's definitely a product where an in-person event, like being able to have that hands-on time after the initial keynote that we're so used to having, before COVID hit. This is a product that, like, if there's any product that needs it, like this is a product that needs it.
This is unfortunately, you cannot be told what the Matrix is. You need to see it for yourself.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
One thing I was laughing earlier because it occurred to me that if this product is any sort of hit, or even if it's maybe even especially if it's not, one of the things Apple could do to promote it is create future events in like the AR world. So you put on your glasses and then Tim Cook steps into your living room.
Yeah. Which, I mean, to be honest, they do those AR invites, right? Or the invites, they have like the AR things. And I always thought those are cool. It's like a neat little thing. Tim Cook walking around my living room might be a little weird, but I'd be down to try it. I don't know. You never know what you like until you try it, right?
Craig Federighi walks in from the kitchen. Air Force One himself.
And one more thing walks off into your bathroom. Oh, I don't know if I want to go in there.
I don't know about the one more thing, Tim. I don't know about it.
The future's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I'm getting a little more excited about the prospect of this. Maybe not the headset specifically, but Apple finally making an AR device that doesn't feel stapled onto a phone. Because that's that's what AR Kit has kind of felt like to me over the past few years. It's fine, but like holding your phone out still feels a little weird. Yeah. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the other big actual news, not rumor, not leak. Big news of the week is about, of all things, the Find My app. But no, it is not AirTags. It is not yet AirTags.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I have to say the fact that they included Chipolo is making me nervous that they are not going to do AirTags because it's such a direct competitor.
Yeah. Or maybe this is their way of saying, hey, no antitrust problems here. See, we've got Chipolo.
Maybe they're just buying Chipolo. Maybe there's buying Chipolo, right? Isn't that what Apple does?
Maybe, but then now would have been a good time to announce that if they were going to do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't actually think that's necessarily in the works, but it would be kind of funny.
Yeah,
really,
but I just
Facebook does.
Right.
But I mean, when they announced that Chipolo was one of the items on that list, I just felt like the stab of disappointment. Like, oh, that just does not bode well for AirTags.
So let's back up a little. Let's back up a little bit here. For those that don't know what we're talking about, Apple this week released kind of like an update. It's almost a stealth update for the Find My app because it's not coming in a new software update. It's not in 14.5. This is in iOS 14.3 or later. But what Apple has done, what these people have done, is they've formally opened up the Find My app to third-party devices. Now, this is something that was announced back at WWDC last year, but now third parties can actually take advantage of it. Back at CES in January, I think it was. Oh, who was it? It was a headphone manufacturer. It wasn't Anchor. But yeah, an earbud manufacturer announced that they would be the first earbuds to work with Apple's Find My app, and now that is Belkin. It was Belkin. Belkin's new Soundform, I think Freedom wireless earbuds, which actually look a lot like AirPods. So you know what? Props to Apple for partnering with them on that.
Yeah.
But these earbuds, I think, really mostly in the case, can now be added to the Find My app. You can now add supported products. So this isn't everything that could be. You can't add a tile tracker, but you can add Chipolo's new special one tracker.
It's just the one tracker, right? Not all of their trackers.
Right. Which talking about that, I mean, the Chipolo, that one Chipolo one tracker.
Yeah.
The naming here, folks, is not the best. Yeah, the Chipolo One Spot. I think it's a special edition. I don't know that it's not every Chipolo One that exists.
Yeah, and that's why Karen, I like somewhat disagree with you. Like I can understand where the worry might be, where like, oh, if they're adding this third party, but the fact that it's literally one tracker, and I don't know. It's interesting. Like Tile didn't get one. That's something that I keep thinking about. That Tile didn't get included in this in any way. And I feel like Tile is kind of the bigger name in the space right now. Like Chipolo's definitely getting there, but they're the bigger name. So I feel like if they had added Tile, then I would have been, I think, a little more worried. I think AirTags are still eventual at some point. They got to be. Like there's just too many things, too many announcements.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I hope that's the case. The Apple Store used to sell Tile products. I don't know if they still do. It's been a long time since I've set foot in an Apple Store.
Doubt that.
But but they definitely did. They carry the whole line of Tile products when I worked there.
Yeah, I think the one that really captures my imagination is the Van Moof bikes, the e-bikes,
Yeah.
the S3 and X3.
So what are you going to do if somebody steals your bike? I mean, you're going to go.
That is an anti-thievery.
Right, because you don't lose your bike; it gets stolen.
It gets stolen.
I just felt like with these Find My things, like you potentially could be in a dangerous situation. Like you don't necessarily want to encourage people to go.
Well, in that case, you
confront robbers.
I think the idea is that you hopefully
you give that information
you contact
to the
authorities. Like, hey, it's exactly here.
Yeah, I've had a friend of mine who lost his got his laptop got stolen, and he used the Find My app and gave that information to police, and he did eventually get his laptop back. So I think I don't think that they're encouraging people to go into the confront criminals who have stolen your products. But yeah, I think it's good. Honestly, bike theft is like a really big, I think it's pretty much a big issue anywhere, but like in my city specifically, it's a really big issue. Like the amount of locks you have to put on your bike to make sure a thief doesn't just come around with like a blowtorch, like it's crazy. So if people are serious about having that extra protection and being able to, locate it and hopefully get their bikes back that way through contacting the authorities, I think it's a cool move. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's interesting. Like it was just those three products, just headphones, Chipolo tags, and the bikes. What about, there's so many other things that could have been included. So I'm curious how they narrowed it down.
When you add one of these products to the Find My app, Apple should pop up a warning that says you are not Batman.
Do not attempt vigilante justice.
Yeah. Don't go to recover stolen property on your own.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I think Apple should have some kind of warning pop up.
Yeah,
in that situation.
Karen, you bring up a good point. Like, why these three? I mean, I think they're a good sort of. I think it's a nice mix of products. You got the earbuds, you got the Chipolo, and then bikes. What?
Yeah, it is. It's a good mix. I'm just surprised it's so small. Usually when Apple comes out with something, they have a list of like 20 or 30, a longer list of
this is more
partners.
This is less of a TV app release where a bunch of streaming apps were already on board when they announced it.
Right.
More of a business messaging app thing where it's like just a smattering, a small handful. I would like to see that list expand, but now that it's out there, maybe more companies will be more willing to start building it into their products.
Yeah,
maybe it'll be a sort of slow but definite trickle over the years, like AirPlay 2 has been. I think AirPlay 2 has gotten a lot of support from third-party developers, and maybe this will be a similar thing.
I think so.
Plus, if you buy into Apple's system, that's not a system you have to build in your own product.
Right.
You don't have to build your own.
And you always got to start somewhere. Like I agree with you, Karen. Usually when we see something like this, there is a little more, partners or more products kind of on board. But perhaps it has something to do with the fact that AirTags hopefully should be coming out at some point soonish rather than later. But it also could just be like maybe these were just the people that they approached just to like try it out or just to open it up and see what it's like. There could be like a multitude of reasons why it's only a few products right now, but you got to start somewhere. So hopefully we see more and more types of products in the future.
Yeah.
And also, one thing to point out is during the development process, if you keep it to a small group, you're not getting a bunch of leaks and reports saying, "Oh, the problems with this whole thing."
That makes sense. Keep it tight.
If it does happen, it's coming from one of three companies.
Right. True.
It's and as for the tile thing, what I think about is, I think there's some kind of privacy stipulation where you don't, like, these third parties aren't getting this location data. like Belkin does not get your location data of where you have the earbuds.
Right.
And so maybe that's something that Tile wasn't happy about. Like you can set up your device with your own app or with Find My, but you can't do both, I think was one of the stipulations. I could just be making that up in my head. That happens sometimes. Before we continue on, Karen, why don't you tell us about our friends over at Ladder?
Yes. So a number of years ago, my husband was driving home from work on his motorcycle on the highway and totally wiped out. And I came home and he was on the couch and all of the skin on his knees and elbows was gone. But otherwise he was shaken, but he was okay. But I kind of had this moment like, oh my gosh, that could have been so much worse. And at the time I was a stay-at-home mom. We had 3 young kids at home that still needed to get put through college. And, my husband was the breadwinner almost exclusively at the time. And it was like, what might have happened? So on that note, it makes sense why people need life insurance, especially term coverage, which is surprisingly affordable. So why not pay a bit more to protect the ones you love? If you're asking yourself this question, choose Ladder. Ladder makes it impressively fast and easy to get covered. You just need a few minutes and a phone or a laptop to apply. Ladder's smart algorithms work in real time, so you'll find out instantly if you're approved. No hidden fees, cancel anytime. And since life insurance costs more as you age, now's the time to cross it off your list. So check out Ladder today to see if you're instantly approved. Go to ladderlife.com/iMore. That's LADDER life.com/iMore. Ladderlife.com/iMore.
Right. Thank you, Karen. All right. Moving right along. I wanted to talk a little bit before we get into into exact rumors. I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're not seeing anything lately. I mean, a lot of us expected an event in March. That hasn't happened. Now we're expecting something in April. And so far, no announcements except for WWDC, which is everybody in June.
Yeah, I'm just going to double down on my prediction that there's not going to be an Apple event. There's going to be a couple of press releases.
Yeah.
But
June
no
13th.
actual event.
June 13th would seem like the best time for it. And it's possible we'll get an announcement next week for something the week after, but
you mean April 13th?
Yeah. April 13th.
You said June. You're thinking WW.
Yes. Yeah. June 13th event does not make sense because I think that's a Sunday.
And that'd be a new one.
So you're thinking if there's an April event, it's going to be April 13th?
No,
they're going to announce it on April 13th.
I think that would have made sense. I think that would have been the most sensible date. Like it's the middle of the month.
Yeah, it's kind of too late for that now.
Yeah, but now that's passed us by, and so maybe April 13th is the date that they announce an event for, say, the 20th or 21st. And then next week it doesn't happen, so maybe they'll announce on the 20th or the 27th or 28th, and then we keep playing this game.
Yeah, once we get into May, forget it.
Yeah, and there's a rumor this week that we might see the iPad Pro next week, just announced as a press release, Karen, to your point, on Tuesday. That could happen. We're ready for it, but it could, it very well could happen. And I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about a lot of things. I keep thinking about it. And a piece of news that popped up today, this isn't Apple news so much. This is Android focused news. But our friends over at Android Central broke this story. Along with, it should be noted, our friend, John Prosser, that the Google Pixel 5a, which for those unfamiliar with the Pixel line, they've had the 3a and the 4a, and the Pixel 5a would have been the next in this series, is sort of their budget focused, all usually really good budget focused phone, like sort of stock Android phone. Like this is the budget stock Android phone of choice for everybody. The Pixel 5a has apparently been canceled, and the reason is the global chip shortage. Now, for anyone who's tried to buy a graphics card or, I don't know, a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X in the last ever since they've existed. The global chip shortage is what's impacting your ability to purchase those things because the pandemic is hurting companies' abilities to produce chips. And that, I think, is what is behind. Well, obviously, that's what's behind the Pixel 5a cancellation, but also what I think is behind the lack of announcements from Apple right now. I think when it comes to iPads and Macs and AirTags, I think Apple might have, especially AirTags, I think Apple might have waited a bit too long on those. Because now we're still in the midst of this shortage. And I don't know that there's a particular end in sight. Yeah. But you know, for those of us that are eagerly anticipating new products to talk about, to buy, to write about, it's frustrating, you know, but what can Apple do? Like, do you think, you know, Karen, you talked about when, you know, with the Find My stuff, do you think there comes a point when Apple says, like, we wanted to release AirTags, but it internally, they keep getting delayed and delayed and delayed. Do you think they just eventually decide it's not worth it?
I mean, they've done it before. They did it. They've done it with products they actually formally announced and then took it back. So, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this is just sort of. I mean, this is just unfortunately just a way of life right now. You know, the world's still struggling with everything going on, and you know, production is just not where it used to be 2 years ago. You know, it's just materials are harder to get, the work's harder to get. There's shutdowns for, you know, various reasons, depending on where you are. Like, different countries are struggling with different restrictions. It's just there is nothing Apple can do, which is unfortunate. Right. I'm sure if Apple could, they would just solve all the problems. But this is kind of a situation where, you know, you can't always just throw money at the problem to make it go away.
Exactly. Those were the exact words I was going to say.
Yeah. So, it is unfortunate, you know, as people, as tech enthusiasts, it sucks to be in a bit of a drought, I suppose, now of new products or new information and things like that. But the world will turn again. It'll happen. Things will get resolved. We're going to have to wait a bit longer, and that's just kind of life. But things will get resolved. They will eventually start turning properly again. You know, every day we get a little bit closer. So
Apple. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, we just got to wait it out. You know, it's unfortunate, but we just got to wait it out.
Yeah. I mean, Apple has not ever announced AirTags, so they don't owe us AirTags, and they don't owe us any explanation if they never release AirTags.
That is true.
They're so far just a rumor.
They're just gonna have to field those analyst calls during the analyst questions during earnings calls from now until eternity. Which that's the end of this month. Is the next the next Apple financial results call. So I'm sure if we don't see AirTags by then, that's gonna dominate analyst questions. That will, of course.
But that does lead me to think further that we definitely need to see something. And the iPad Pro seems like a good bet, I think.
Yeah,
before then, you know.
And I think it's a good candidate for a press release.
Mm-hmm.
The last one. Last year's iPad Pro wasn't, simply because it also had the Magic Keyboard, and so they just talked about both at the same time. And they actually produced little videos, even though we were still in the pandemic, or we were actually beginning of the pandemic then, at least for the US. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that in a press release. Do you think, though, Karen, like, if they do have AirTags ready to go and they do want to just go ahead and announce them, do you think that they can just do AirTags in a press release?
I do. I think they can. Because people are already familiar with the concept. It's not like the Apple Watch was almost like a wholly new product in the world, you know. I mean, there were trackers. There were tons of fitness trackers out there, but nothing really like the Apple Watch. Same thing like when the iPad was first released. I mean, you had to have a in-person press release for that. But AirTags, I mean, everybody's familiar with the concept. Everybody knows about trackers.
At least I would hope so. They've been around long enough. Tile's been around forever. Anybody
who would be watching an Apple keynote speech is already familiar with trackers, put it that way.
Yeah, that's almost definitely true. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on there. But now we're going to move into something a little more fun. We're going to move into rumors because 'tis the season for rumors. Let's start with the Apple TV because I think this one's a little weird. This rumor strikes me as a little strange. There's a rumor out this week, as reported by fine folks over at 9 to 5 Mac, that the next Apple TV could feature support for 120 hertz refresh rate. Now, this comes from code found in the tvOS 14.5 beta. Why is my question? Like, I mean, maybe this is the year of promotion for everything. You know,
maybe.
Apple TV now with NVIDIA G-Sync.
I feel like they're really going after gamers here.
Yeah,
that's the one market that Apple really doesn't dominate. Is gaming. I mean, maybe they're trying to get people to let go of their PlayStations and Xboxes, and I don't know. Seems like a reach.
It does seem a bit weird. I mean, it would definitely mean that, you know, there's definitely, you know, if this is true, there is definitely a new Apple TV that would have to come, because it's not like this is not something that can happen in an update. You know, it's not a firmware or a software issue. It's definitely like the actual hardware. You would need an HDMI 2.1 port, which the Apple TV 4K only has a 2.0, which can only get to 4K at 60 hertz refresh rate, not 120. So it definitely needs, you know, that would be a new device for sure. It wouldn't be something like just an update. It wouldn't be like a hot fix or anything. And we've been saying, you know, or at least I've been saying that Apple TV can definitely use some sort of refresh / new product for a while. Would be great. This is interesting. I agree. It definitely kind of seems like it would be a gaming play. And I mean, if they're really trying to make, like, you know, I guess it would be great for Apple Arcade. I don't know how many Apple Arcade games actually support the 120 hertz refresh rate at the moment, but maybe they're trying to push it that way, because as I've said before, Apple Arcade games, you have kind of, depending on your hardware and stuff on Apple TV, is a bit of a weird experience sometimes, not necessarily the most smooth. So it could even just be as simple as that, but I agree. It seems odd. It's a bit of an odd rumor, and I'm excited to see what it could mean. Maybe there is some sort of big gaming play that we have yet to uncover. I'm not sure. But it's certainly interesting.
Yeah. And you know, people are really focused on the remote, of course. And in the comments, I'm seeing some interesting chatter about the remotes. And we would hope that, like Phone Pup says, that if there's a new remote, that it's still backwards compatible with all of the old Apple TVs. And looking forward, it would be neat if the remote also works with the Find My. That would be an interesting.
Yeah, that would be better.
Yeah, right? Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have strict rules in my house about where people are allowed to set remotes down.
I should.
Otherwise, they get lost.
I don't, but I should.
I constantly am saying remote on glass. Like we have like glass tables. Like, you must put the remote down on glass. You cannot put it on a couch cushion, because what happens when you put a remote on a couch cushion?
It gets lost on the couch.
Exactly.
Yeah, I should. I'm with Luke. I should have those rules, but you know what this gets me thinking is that this isn't. If this is a thing, I feel like it's not a dongle. I feel like maybe I'd be concerned about heat.
Yeah, no, I agree. This definitely sounds like it would be a new Apple TV like
a box,
a new set box. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, hey, maybe they'll still release like a cheaper dongle version if you're just looking to get like Apple content and take advantage of that way. I think that'd be a cool strategy, especially since Apple has been kind of doing well recently with kind of, expanding their lineup to kind of hit more price points. That'd be an interesting play, but this definitely, if this is true, then this definitely sounds, I agree with you, Joe. It definitely sounds like a new box, not a stick or a dongle or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I could definitely see bifurcating the line like that and having the bigger box and focusing on gaming. Like Armadillo Tech in the comments points out, like if the gaming companies like Sony, Rockstar, whatever, if they start focusing on iOS, I mean, that's really going to be the key to trying to compete with the PS5 and Xbox type companies out there, is getting the good content.
Yeah. That definitely makes me feel not a dongle, but I think that's an interesting idea, perhaps bifurcating the line. Maybe the dongle actually goes a bit lower, maybe not the $99 price point that I'd like to see, but maybe, $129 instead of starting at $180.
Yeah.
And then maybe the box actually goes more expensive if it's focusing more on gaming, to like $200, not much more expensive, maybe $200.
Yeah, because I think they would capture two very different audiences if they bifurcated like that.
Yeah, especially with those prices. And with the recent Apple Arcade update with launching a bunch of classic games, I think Apple has finally found more of its footing with that service. They for a while it was just Apple Originals, Apple Arcade Originals, and they had a lot of rules about them. But now developers are able to put out these. Right now, we're going to call them plus versions of games like Spell Tower, and arcade, kind of Apple App Store classics that have had essentially the in-app purchases removed. So you get the full game if you're an Apple Arcade subscriber. Now I think Apple just needs some like bigger, like controller focused titles. That's what's really going to get you on an Apple TV, on a console experience like an Apple TV. Is you need that emphasis on controller support.
Yeah, and content good. You need excellent content.
Yeah, totally.
But what would be really great is if Apple really truly allowed game streaming services on these devices. Like, I can't help but look at the Apple TV and say to myself, that is a perfect box for something like Xbox game streaming or GeForce Now or Stadia, if only Apple would let those services on properly, not in individual container apps for the games, but a catalog app that you can launch any game from, just like you can with Netflix, Hulu, and Apple TV Plus. This is a particular irritation of mine. Is for the longest time Apple just flat didn't allow those services on, and now they changed the rules like last September or October to be, well, we will, but you have to do it in this very specific, very weird way that doesn't make a lot of sense because they want like content approval over the games.
Right. Yeah. Making that very seamless is going to be important if they want to really make a dent in the market.
Yeah, but maybe Arcade becomes a streaming service soon, and that's in some places they do care about antitrust, and other places they seem very much not to. But yeah, I think that's a very interesting rumor. 120 hertz. One wonders, though, would it actually be variable refresh rate? Because I don't know that it would. On the TVs, I don't know that it would, because they completely control the display on iPhone and iPad. To a much lesser extent, the Mac. I don't even think the Mac has 120 hertz support. I don't think macOS supports that. I think it only supports up to 60. But the TV, how many companies really advertise a 120 hertz TV that aren't focused on games? And I think this is something that is definitely, the more I think about it, the more I talk about it right now is, gaming play, just because that's who wants 120 hertz on the TV. I don't want 120 hertz when I'm watching movies. I don't want that motion smoothing. Get that off there. Ryan Johnson's right.
Totally.
Yeah. So moving on to our next rumor, because there are many. There are many, many rumors. We've got a new look at the the iPhone 13. Supposedly, we have a new dummy unit out there in the wild. This comes by way of, and I do apologize if I butcher this, Mac Otakara, which is a Japanese language Apple Focus site. They have a dummy unit that shows off the smaller notch, and they put it up. They did the thing where they put it up against the current notch, and it certainly is a more narrow notch. That's all I could really say about that. At least it's not deeper. At least we're not in a Google Pixel 3 XL bathtub situation.
I thought it was slightly taller, like very ever so slightly, but I thought it was slightly taller.
I think that's an effect of the narrowing, because it doesn't seem to be, it's not like very much narrower. It is just a little bit narrower, and I think that has the visual effect of maybe making it look a little deeper. And also keep in mind, again, this is a dummy unit, and so it's not going to be perfect.
Oh, what is that dummy unit? It doesn't look remotely like it's even made out of metal and glass. It looks like it's made out of Play-Doh.
That's going to be like plastic or something like that.
With like a Xerox picture. I don't know.
These sorts of units always pop up, and I think they're based off CAD renderings that Mac Otakara has seen. Whether they're real or not, I don't know. But yeah, that's what this appears to be. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for a smaller notch, but I think as we've said here before, what we're really waiting for is no notch. Yeah. It's hard to get excited about that, I think.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it looks like it's 2 millimeters narrower or something. I mean, it doesn't look that exciting to me.
Yeah, like what does it really get you at the end of the day? Like, does it really get you that much more information? Maybe the battery percentage.
I'm not even sure it's even enough for that, because if it's 100%, that's 4 digits that's taking up. I don't know that that's 4 digits worth narrower.
And I got to tell you, since I've used the iPhone, an iPhone with a notch since the iPhone 10 back, 3.5 years ago now, I haven't missed battery percentage. I mean, obviously you can see it in Control Center, but just looking at my phone, and looking at the battery percentage, I'm fine just having a vague idea of what it is.
I actually would like to have the battery percentage back.
You have an iPhone mini, so it is more of it is a bigger deal for you.
It is an issue.
Yeah, I've always been kind of what do you call it? Like a notch sympathist. I kind of like the notch. Like, sure, if it was just gone completely, it's not like I would complain. But like, I agree with you that like making it this slightly smaller spot doesn't really do anything. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not any sort of active space you're really going to be getting back to do any grand, new things with. Like, maybe it does bring back the battery percentage option, which I guess would be nice. But I'm kind of with Joe. I don't particularly miss it, and I also I don't think having a bit of a smaller notch makes it's notch or no notch. I feel like that's the battle, not notch or smaller notch. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm fine with the notch. I always have been. I've never really thought it was that bad. I think today actually, as the smartphone world has moved away from notches and more like pinhole cameras and things like that, I actually feel it does kind of make it, it has that, Apple look, because it's its own sort of thing. Whether that's good or not, that's a personal style choice. But yeah, I don't know. It's never really bothered me, but a smaller notch doesn't really do anything for anyone. So It's I guess good. Maybe it means they're slowly working on ways to make all that stuff smaller and fit into smaller spaces, which might eventually mean the elimination of the notch. But this isn't particularly anything that I think anybody's going to be too excited about.
Yeah. And I think we heard a little bit about this. And sort of going along with our talk of the global chip shortage, I wouldn't be surprised if this has impacted this decision. Mass production of the iPhone 13's A15 chip is supposedly going to start in May. Again, not shocking. It's maybe a little earlier than Apple normally would, but I think they want to make sure they have high enough yields and enough good chips by the time they ship these phones. Rumor has it in September we're going to be like back on schedule again this year for iPhone shipment. We talked about this last week with the iPhone upgrade program. A lot of those people are going to get a bit of an early upgrade, I think. But yeah, May is looking like A15 production month, at least for the kickoff. Which, that's exciting. iPhone, that really means iPhones are on the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We just got them, and now we're getting ready for new ones. And yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
Promotion. I'm ready for it.
I think we all are.
Yeah. So before we continue further, Karen, why don't you talk to us about our friends over at HelloFresh?
Yes. So with HelloFresh, you get pre-measured ingredients and mouth-watering seasonal recipes delivered right to your door. You can skip the trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. So HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes or less. Try meals ready in 20 minutes or less, lightning prep recipes, and quick breakfast and lunch. Perfect for your busy schedule. So when my son graduated from college last year, he came to live at home for a little while because of COVID. And he was working remotely, and he happens to be a really good cook. Like, he's a much more adventurous cook than I am. I love to eat, but he actually likes the cooking part. So he cooked us some amazing meals. I got so spoiled. And then he left to go, have his real life. And so I was stuck back to like my same rotation of like 5 easy meals that I cook. And it was kind of sad. So I got HelloFresh, and it was a great transition because it made it so easy to have like really cool, interesting meals without having the drudgery of like looking through recipes and going grocery shopping and all that. It was like easy. It just came right to my door in a big box, and I was able to get the food cooked easily, and it was, even I could handle it. And so it was really fun. It was a good way to enjoy some gourmet food in my son's absence. So go to HelloFresh.com/iMore12 and use code iMore12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. Go to HelloFresh.com/iMore12 and use code iMore12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping. So HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit.
Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this episode of the iMore Show.
Thank you.
Yes, they are.
Thanks.
Yeah, they certainly, they certainly do spice up my cooking life sometimes. So yeah, I want to talk about iPads now because this is a weird one for me. This is a weird one for me because I'm a huge, anybody who's listened to this show for the last little while knows I'm a huge iPad fan, especially iPad Pros. Now, the iPad Pros aren't exactly the weird part of this rumor. I want to talk about the iPad Mini. So this week, yesterday, in fact, new leaked supposed dummy units of more dummy units appeared of the new iPad Pro and the iPad Mini. Now, the iPad Pro, this dummy unit for each of the 2 models has a third camera, which I think it has a third camera. That might be a new placement for the LiDAR sensor, but we're not expecting a lot of physical changes to the iPad Pro this year. On the outside, we're expecting Thunderbolt, and maybe a new display. But I would say more concerning bit of this supposed leak is the iPad Mini. So these dummy units come to us by way of Sonny Dixon, who is a longtime leaker. If you've paid attention to the Apple rumor world or Apple leak world, you probably know that name. And so Sonny Dixon has shown us these models. The iPad Mini dummy that he's shown us seems very much the same, very much in line with the current Mini, and
Yeah.
I want to talk about it.
Yeah, it is surprisingly low rent looking compared to the other two, particularly.
Well, it's the same as it's been since the first iPad Mini.
Yeah.
The iPad Mini has never changed form factor.
Yeah.
And rumors in the last year have pointed towards it being revamped in the style of the iPad Pro and iPad Air.
Yeah, it for sure at least needs a better camera on there. I know those of us in the tech world like to make fun of, or we sort of don't really use iPads as cameras, but out in the real world, people really do use their iPads as cameras. I know, like when I was a soccer mom, there would always be parents at the games with their iPads because you could kind of watch the game on your iPad as you're videotaping your kid. So the iPad Mini is really the perfect size for that because you can just stick it in your bag when you're done. So to not even upgrade the camera at all just seems kind of sad.
I think Apple has, at least in terms of timing, a perfect opportunity to get all of their iPads, well, all but maybe one, though who knows about later this year, onto the Apple Pencil 2. Currently iPads are bifurcated. You've got the Mini and the 10.2-inch iPad that are compatible with the Apple Pencil 1. You've got the Air and the iPad Pro, which use the Apple Pencil 2. I think if we could move everybody over to what I think is the better pencil because it magnetically attaches to the side and charges there, and it has the little gesture area. It's everything that's great about the old Apple Pencil, minus all the stuff that is weird or is bad about it, like the way you charge it.
Yeah, I think we need to get all of the iPads onto the Apple Pencil 2.
Maybe it'll be Apple Pencil 3 by the time the Mini comes out.
Or whatever, yeah. What would be nice if they would come out with an Apple Pencil 3 that's backwards compatible to all of the iPads.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it would be backwards compatible to the iPads that use the Pencil 1, just because I think it would follow the charging model of the 2.
Right, because the older iPads don't have the magnetic,
which the inductive charging plate is what I call it.
Yes, that.
Although it's not just that; it's also how you pair the pencil to those iPads. And with the older ones, you stick the Lightning plug in, and that's how you do it.
Right, but at least it should be. I would hope it would be backwards compatible with the 2.
Yeah.
With all the iPads that are compatible with the Apple Pencil 2.
Yeah, I just don't know what to this day we don't know. We've now seen a rumor over the a few weeks ago we saw a rumor of an Apple Pencil 3. I still don't know what it would do other than over the 2.
Yeah, I don't.
It comes in black now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, it's got to do more than that.
One hopes. It does remind me. Years and years ago, our pal Renee Ritchie wrote a review on iMore of, I think it was the iPod Touch 4, and the review was it comes in white now because it was essentially the iPod Touch 3, which just also came in white. Let's not go for that situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Apple Pencil 2 is pretty great. It's hard to imagine what new they could do.
Yeah. Maybe a bigger gesture area. Maybe maybe it has an eraser end. Maybe the end's actually an eraser by default.
Yeah.
Maybe you can wave it around like a magic wand. You can use it as an AR controller. There we go. It all comes back around. But
I feel like it would have to tie in. I was just thinking it would tie into AR somehow to make it really stand out.
Yeah. When it comes to the Mini, like seriously, it's never changed design. Like it's always had that same design since the very first low res screen Mini. I just, maybe we got ourselves too excited on the idea of an iPad Mini that has a bigger screen and the same size body and looks like the iPad Pro. Maybe I did that to myself.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that would be a cool update, and that would be nice, and it would breathe, some new life into the line that, you're right, has been pretty stale. It's pretty much just processor upgrades. It's pretty much what it's been for the most part since its inception. Some screen upgrades that, every whatever, but it's mostly just been throw in a new processor and call it a day. I agree with Karen, even on the baseline, like iPad from last year, which is what I currently have as my tablet. The cameras suck. They're not good. And people do use them. Karen's right. People do use them. Like we sometimes like to make fun of tablet photographers, but they exist, and there's plenty of applications for it where it's great. It would be nice to see an upgrade at least in that department. But I kind of think, Joe, maybe you're right about getting a little too excited about that prospect, because it really feels like, I don't know. I have this image in my head that Apple's really trying to like do sort of like the two-pronged approach, and capture more, price points, with a lot of their stuff. And I don't know. I feel like the upgrade to the iPad Air and making the iPad Air that sort of like middle ground between the Pro but the baseline iPad, I think was really smart. And I think, the lineup that they have now kind of makes sense if you look at it from like a price, a budget perspective. So like you would have to imagine a big increase like that to the iPad mini, a big overhaul like that would drive the price up a decent amount. There's definitely corners they could cut, but it would drive up the price for sure. And I don't know if that's the way they're going.
But I feel like Apple has the baseline iPad as the budget. It's kind of like how Apple has the iPhone SE to be the budget iPhone model. So the iPhone mini does not need to be the budget model. We already have a budget model. So I feel the same way about the iPad mini. The iPad mini does not have to be the budget model. We have a budget model already. So why not put a little bit more into the iPad mini for people who want a small iPad, not the cheap iPad?
And that's interesting, like an iPad Pro mini.
Yeah, kind of like how I want like an iPhone Pro mini. I would also like an iPad Pro mini.
So here's something to consider. So since the launch of the first iPad Air, that launched alongside a new generation of iPad mini. And the notable thing about those is the iPad mini for the first time had top level specs. It had the same specs as the iPad Air. It was just smaller. And that's been pretty much the way things have gone until the launch of the iPad Air 4. The iPad Air 3 and iPad mini 5 launched with similar specs, same chip. Obviously different battery life because the mini is much smaller. And I wonder if a change to a bigger screen size and form factor and, adding USB-C or hell, maybe Thunderbolt, maybe all of that. You would think that if they kept that the same sort of pricing logic that they have, that the iPad mini 6 would come in at, I think, $499 because the Air starts at $599 now. So it comes in at $100 cheaper. I wonder if maybe Apple feels, because Apple does like to hit its margins. I wonder if maybe Apple feels that they can't make all of those changes at the same time and keep it at $499. Maybe they'd feel the need to price it higher, and they don't want to get it into iPad Air territory just yet.
Well,
I feel like the iPad mini does not need to be Pro necessarily, but I feel like it could at least be Air level, and they could still price it $100 less because it is smaller.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is long past time for a change. I think,
or they could save money by leaving the charger out of the box.
They could do that, and maybe they will. We've come down to the end of our hour, so it's time for us to say goodbye for the week. I just want to say thanks to all of our live listeners and live commenters. You certainly make the show more interesting. You always have great and insightful comments. And I want to say thanks to our not live listeners who will catch us later in the week on their podcatcher of choice. As always, we do this for you folks. because otherwise we'd just be shouting into the void. Thanks, of course, to Jim Metzendorf, our editor extraordinary, who always makes us sound wonderful. And thanks to Luke for guesting this week. And as always, thanks to Karen. And we'll see you next week. This has been the iMore Show.
Bye.
Bye.